Hey guys, what's up, and welcome to the review of the Zeblaze Stratos 2 smartwatch. This is a very cheap smartwatch with an AMOLED display, so let's jump right in and see what we got. So starting with the build quality of this watch is $67, I think. And we'll start with the strap. The strap here is rubber. It's fluoroelastomer. I will say that the feel of this strap is a little bit less powdery than what you get with like an Apple Watch or an Amazfit. Not to say powdery is bad or worse quality. It's just a different preference. So this one is a lot smoother. It doesn't have that kind of like subtle grain or like velvet feel you get with the fluoroelastomer straps. I prefer this. That being said, the rubber here is a tiny bit stiff, so if you wear it for a little bit, it does start irritating. Like, it started irritating my wrist a little bit quicker than I would have liked, but otherwise it's, you know what, it's decent. I also kind of like how this strap over here has I don't know what you call it, but you'll see it has tabs. It has tabs here that basically whenever you put the watch on like this, it'll actually go into one of these tabs and it keeps it very secure. So it's much better than other straps that don't have tabs, where it's just flat, kind of like the bottom over here, where, you know, it's kind of flat like this kind of thing. But when it has tabs like this, it basically never moves, which is quite nice. So I quite enjoy that. And then of course these straps here are removable. As you can see, they have these things here that you can push to enable or to lock and to unlock the straps in place. And then of course the body of this watch here is plastic, which makes it very light, which is very nice because you basically cannot feel it on your wrist in terms of weight. So that's quite nice right there in terms of weight. The face here is metal because it's fairly cold, so it's nice. It's stainless steel. It has etched designs in here with the red arrows. It's also got 4 screws here, some words, and of course you have 3 buttons here, right? You have your regular button, your menu button, and then you have a sport mode or sport button, which lets you quickly start your workouts. And then of course you go to the back, and on the back here you have your oxygen sensor, heart rate sensor on the back, and of course you have your charging pins over there, which actually go along with this guy, and it magnetically snaps on like this. So not bad. Yeah, so that's the body of the watch. It was fairly comfortable, but I will say right now that if you're a smaller person, like I would say if you're shorter than 5'9", that's 173 centimeters, and you're a man, this watch is going to be a little bit too big, depending on how big your wrists are, because my wrists are pretty small. So as you can see, it's pretty big on my wrists. So if you have bigger hands, bigger wrists, this will look decent on you. But if you have smaller hands, smaller wrists, this won't look as good on you. And I think if you're a female, this is it's just way too big. So just from the size, like, women shouldn't get this. Okay, this test, we will put this watch underwater and we'll see if it fails. It works. I mean, the touchscreen doesn't work underwater, but let's see if the touchscreen works above water. It does. So it looks like if it's underwater, your touchscreen just doesn't work. Buttons still work though. So, but your touchscreen does not work. But if you put it above water, touchscreen works again. But yes, this is a waterproof device. So there you go. All right, everybody, let's go through the features of this watch. So I'm gonna actually turn the brightness up just a tiny bit. Oh, nope. There we go. So, going through the features of this watch, this watch here has an always on display option if you want. Otherwise, it turns off after a predetermined time like this for 10 seconds. And then of course it'll switch to always on like this. And so the screen is always on. So that's quite nice. Basically because I like watches where I can glance at it. I don't have to wait, but if you jerk it, I'm trying to do it, but there we go. See, you can see that it switches to the actual watch face. It takes a little bit. It takes about 1/4 of a second. So if you're really fast, you know, you flip your wrist up like whoop, like this, too fast, it actually won't won't register, it won't be fast enough, and it'll still stay in the always on display mode. And of course the touch is also disabled when you're in always on display. Of course, you press this button, that's the main button. You can press the menu button to go to your menu. You can press the sport button to go to that's basically a quick button so you can start recording something like this. And then if you go here, you can check basically your workout, your activity, your stats, sleep, news, weather, etc., etc., etc. And then if you want to access those same things, instead of pressing here, you can also just swipe down and it brings you to all this as well. So here we have a vibration intensity. We have wake for 5 minutes is off. We have lock to touch, press the lock screen, and then you just keep going. And then you just press and hold. There we go, and it unlocks. So that's if you really need to not, disturb your watch. And that's do not disturb mode, so you get no notifications. This is power saving mode. I will not do that, which is actually quite good. I'll talk about that later. And of course, settings, you have watch faces. You can get a lot more watch faces on the phone, and I'll show you that later, but I won't do any of these. And then if you go more to settings, you have brightness, which I just showed you, always on display, which I just showed you as well. As you can see, that is always on. Off-screen dial, you can select between a pointer and a digital. I chose digital. And then, of course, you have activation time of where you can choose what time you want it on, or you want it active all day. So I have it set to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then, of course, you have auto lock, which is a 10-second setting that I have right now. And system settings, which basically restart, power off, reset. QR code, this one is for you to download the app, which I will talk about in a bit. And then about, which talks about the information on the watch. And of course, you want to swipe this way, you can go to other settings like beats per minute, oxygen, sleep data, weather, songs, and then of course today's data, which I have not done much today. So you'll notice one thing is that the interface of the watch isn't super smooth. So you can see that it's a bit laggy. It seems like the refresh rate and the software aren't very good. So as a result, it feels a little bit laggy as you're swiping through things. So it doesn't feel amazing, but then again, it is $70. So can't complain too much about that, especially when you're getting an AMOLED display, and hopefully they'll fix it in a future update. But for right now, you'll have to live with slow interface in terms of the watch. You know what, let's talk about battery life now. So first of all is the standby time. Standby on this is really, really good. Like, I left it for 48 hours and it didn't even drop. I think it dropped to 1% in 48 hours. So standby time, absolutely amazing. Of course, the always on display in this case was off, because if the always on display is on, then your standby time goes down. So that's the first thing. The other thing is talking about the daily usage of the watch. So I started using it on Friday and it died on Monday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So 4 days, but it was super intense use. I did notice that the website said that with this watch, with an always on display like this, you can use this for 10 days intense use. I don't know if maybe my use was just super intense, but I could not get it 10 days. I got 4 days. That being said, the always on display was on, right? So, and basically I hit 81% by the end of the day on Friday, and every day, so Friday, Saturday, and Monday actually. So 3 days I did exercise and Sunday I did not. But I was wearing the watch not 24/7. Anytime I was awake, when I was asleep, I took the watch off to use. And yeah, so I would say that with very heavy use, you can get 5 days. 4 or 5 days. I would not trust their 10-day number just because I was not able to get 10 days. And of course, if you turn on power saving mode like this, like battery life just gets extended even longer. Like I think with power saving mode, it lasted, when did it last? It lasted for 7 hours, from 5% to 3%. So that's really not bad at all. But I'm gonna turn that off for now. That's your battery snapshot. I would say 4 or 5 days is good for heavy use. And then if maybe you turn the always on display off, you're gonna get longer than 5 days, maybe 10 days. But with the always on display, you're gonna get 4 or 5 days on this watch. All right, let's talk about this app over here. It's functional. I'll go through all the functions later, but This app is very sketchy is not the right word. It's very unknown, untested, so you don't know if it's a good or a bad app, right? It collects a lot of your data. There is an option here for you to actually delete your data, so you can actually go, I think here, personal information, feedback. There was a place you can go to actually cancel your account, and then you can delete your data as well. So they do have that option. Then again, you don't know how much data they actually delete. So I just want to caution you, this one cannot be connected with Google Fit. So that's the sad part of that, because otherwise I would just use Google Fit, much better. So this app right here, I'll go through basically the cards you can choose here. For example, here you have step count. And of course, I'm gonna go to month, and you can see that I've taken 28,000 steps in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Right? And so 20.65 kilometers in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days is actually not bad. And then of course you can go to week mode as well if you want, and day mode, which is useful as well. Distance, same thing. Day, week, month. I'll go to month, same thing. 28,590 steps, and of course this is just steps as well. And then of course calories burned, same thing. You have the same bar graph, that shows you the kind of calories you burn. So 1,000 calories is really not a lot. I don't know how I'm so skinny. I should be really fat. And then of course heart rate. Same thing. This records your average heart rate. As you can see here, we have maximum of 154. That's quite high. Minimum of 60. Okay. Average of 90. So maybe I should go see a doctor. Anyway, exercise record. This one is a little bit different because as you can see, there isn't information presented in the same way. So the reason for that is because it's actually getting stuff from the watch. And so as you can see here, I did outdoor cycling, 16 minutes. So here it shows Google Maps. I don't know why it's not showing up, but it shows Google Maps that shows the path by which you actually went. And actually, I'll show you the Strava map that I use because I actually record the same thing in Strava just to be sure. And I'll show you exactly where I went as well. So like this, right? So that's where I went, Strava map. So the same map is shown in that app as well. Not sure why it's not showing, but we'll keep going. And then of course there's a graph that shows a graph of heart rate throughout the exercise. I want to say useful, but it's quite interesting because I'm not an elite athlete, so I don't really care what my heart rate is over the entire time. Calories burnt, and then of course detailed. You have estimations of warm-up, fat burn, aerobic endurance, anaerobic endurance, etc. Of course, distance, speed, 11.78 kilometers per hour. So this is nice. This does have GPS. I didn't mention that, but it does have GPS. Yes. And then I did a high intensity interval workout. So this one I didn't really move around. I stayed in the same room. Same thing, heart rate, calories, details. You have all your stuff over here, exercise time, etc. Sleep, I didn't do it because I couldn't fall asleep with the watch on. So I'm very sorry guys, but I didn't really test this for you. I really do apologize. I just can't sleep with watches on. Blood oxygen, now we're back to the same format of month. As you can see, blood oxygen shows max oxygen saturation. I don't know how useful or accurate this is, so take whatever you see here with a grain of salt. Effective standing is an interesting metric that they measure here. They say, standing exercise, not really exercise, but they basically measure how long you're effectively standing in a day. I don't know how useful this is again, but I mean, it might be useful for some people. Now we go on to the next tab, and here is the exercise where you can actually go and you can start your exercise like this, but I'm gonna cancel it. How do I cancel it? Stop. Confirm. Device. So that's where you can start it as well. I usually start it on the watch because it's more easy, but you can do it on the device as well. So here, you can actually select some of the settings on the watch. You can actually just change it from here if it's easier. So for first thing you can do is you click here. You can turn on power saving. You can turn off power saving. You can do raise to wake, which if you raise or if you move the watch into a position, it'll wake it up, which is fine. Find device. There we go. Anyway, and then you have time settings, brightness settings, vibration settings, device language, restart, Bluetooth, and device. So you have all the settings that you can do here as well. And then this one is fairly important. You need to enable this to push notifications to this watch. So you need to enable background access. And then here you have a dial center. So you see this dial I chose this one, right? So that's that right there. Oops, right? And then you can actually go online and look at all the other dials. I think there's about 100 dials here, so there's quite a good selection. I don't know if they're gonna add more or anything, but as you can see, there's a lot of dials you can choose here. I chose that one because I think it looks quite nice, but of course you can choose something else. So for example, if you want, I don't know, Pigman, for example, you can click sync dial, and what it'll do, it'll actually push that dial to the watch. It'll transfer it, and then it'll install it and enable it on your behalf. So it's very easy to use, not bad. And then as it's installing, I'll just browse to other places and look at the dials that I like. So I actually don't remember which one I used before, but so you go like this, bam, now it's red. I don't like this as much. I like black dials because notice the AMOLED screen here, like there's a black ring that's not a screen. So it's kind of like a bezel. I don't like that look very much. So as you can see, I don't think it looks quite as nice, but that's up to you. But yeah, you can choose any of these dials, no problem. We'll keep moving with message notification settings. Basically what you want to do is you want to enable all these, well, maybe not missed calls, and the third-party apps, and then you basically enable WhatsApp or other apps to notify you on here. So you can, well, I don't have any news right now, but you can receive notifications. I will say that if you're receiving like 1 trillion notifications, it'll keep vibrating, and if you want to turn off notifications, you are not able to, because as you're trying to swipe down here and click on do not disturb, the notifications keep going off and they keep moving you back up to this screen over here. So I don't want to say it's poor design, but I don't know how they're going to solve that. And then of course you have reminder settings as well. Alarm, sedentary, drink water, medication reminder. You can set all those on the watch. I haven't really set any because I don't really need any, but you can set those. Continuous heart rate monitoring. I had that turned off, but you turn that on, it's gonna kill your battery life. So it's gonna be even worse. So I suspect with this on, you're probably down to 2-3 days of battery life, which is not bad, but very far from their 10-day estimation. Weather settings, you can set your city and it shows the weather. Shake to take photos. I didn't use that. And then of course there's other stuff here: personal information, unit, target settings, map, feedback, etc. So yeah, so that's the watch. What I'll say about the watch is that it's a decent watch. Obviously the application that you have on your phone is the weak point in most of these cheaper Chinese watches, because most more expensive watches connect to Google Fit. Cheaper Chinese watches use weird apps. That's your weakness right here with this watch, because otherwise the only other weakness would be the slowness in swiping, because everything else is there. Like basically everything you would want in a smartwatch, you get that here. And it's only $69. And the screen is always on. The battery life is actually quite good. Like it's not as good as Zeblaze claims, but it's quite good. So it's definitely good enough for most people. So would I recommend this watch? I think at $69, I actually would. Just be aware of the 2 downsides. Number 1, sketchy Chinese apps in cheaper smartwatches, and number 2, it is a little bit laggy, as you can see when you're swiping. I think that's just the nature of the device. It's probably not super fast, but that's what you have to contend with. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you want to buy this watch. If you want to, there's a link in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.